These are my three sketchbooks from high school, from ages 15 to 18. And I'm just going to go through them all today in order, starting with the first one from about, I think, 2006 or 7. And this was made when I was 15 years old. And we'll start off with the cover page, which I don't think was the first thing I did. I think this was developed over time. And let's just show the camera there okay, let's see. This is a little guy that I did with a skateboard, some stuff I cut out of a magazine. I remember people at school always saying that looks like a butthole. I think everything is cut out of a magazine except for this one skater dude over here that I drew when I was about 15. And then the first page, I remember people in my dorm really liking this one and then saying like, why don't you do stuff like this more often? Because this was the only thing I did of it. It's sort of like a guy who is in the middle of a tribe and he's holding some kind of scepter. And then over here is just a naked lady looking away. Mao wow, I remember my best friend Carl Unsworth, he really liked that image and he wrote that, Mao wow. What I quite like about this guy on the right here is it's sort of, it hints at like a larger story. Like you can see these people up on the cliffside over there. It's quite inspired. I never did anything like this afterwards. It's not the best page, but it's just some attempt at some kind of like anime frame. This is just stupid. I think I was going to write arms shortage. I think that was the idea here. This is also quite bad. Add your own flavor. Just cut out from like a magazine or something. I remember this was one of my first attempts at digital art. I drew that with my mouse on a computer. I remember this was actually an image that I scanned into the computer and then edited when I had access to a scanner. And here's an attempt to redo some kind of drawing. This was before I actually used a proper sketch pad. So this is just a lined book. And we were encouraged to like mix mediums. So this is just like some Arabic text with a random cartoon drawn on it. Here's a hand with some lines around it. And a lot of stuff is stuck in because at this time I didn't even have a proper sketchbook. I don't know why. I mean, when I was younger than this, I remember having proper sketchbooks, but yeah, there's a lot of random stuff in here. This was like a project that we did on, art, ancient art. Here's a bunch of cartoon characters with the word sane written underneath it. An early acknowledgement of my lack of sanity. Here's another bit of digital art that I did. It was also a scanned-in picture, I believe. And it's just a clown with a frown and a gun. A frowny clown with a gun. I'm trying to get everything in frame properly. And then this is another one of those failed pages. Texas's finest, George Bush. I was trying to make his name into a skull. Okay, they're not all winners. This is a sculpture. It's a drawing of a sculpture that I made. This is a guy, Barney. We used to call him Barney. His name was Christopher Barnard, I think. I actually can't remember what his first name is because everyone used to call him Barney after his surname. And his surname was Barnard. And here's some kind of ghoul that I drew. I think this was inspired by the Terry Pratchett's. I forget the artist's name. I think it's never mind. And then here's another weird cartoon. Oh, Paul Kirby, I think his name is. I've got his book somewhere here. Anyway, I'll write it in the description or something. And here's a bunch of. I would draw on pieces of paper and then I would cut those drawings out and then I would stick them in the sketchbook just for content. some of these drawings, like this one, it seems so familiar to me that it must be from somewhere, but maybe I drew it and it just stuck in my mind for so long. This is a prostitute, monkey, bush baby, and a little weird. Here are two characters that look very similar to each other. I think the guy on the right was supposed to be like a Cape Coloured. Now that I live in Cape Town, it definitely reminds me of something like that. And then this guy, it's just, I think I was just inspired by like stoners and homeless people and that kind of thing. He's thinking of a fork, which is actually the symbol for psychology, and I didn't know that at the time. This character is inspired by my best friend Carl Unsworth, who had a giant nose. I would often just draw his giant nose because I thought it was so beautiful. And then I think my brother did that, actually. That's not my design. And then I did this because I was jealous of what he drew. And these were scanned into the computer and printed out. Here's some random people that I drew from my classroom at school. And here are a bunch of faces. I remember being very, very happy with this piece in particular. It's just like the changing expressions. It sort of hints at an interest in animation and a future in animation. Here are some weird characters that I cut out. Some of them are just ink splatters. This I thought was like an interesting sort of Disney character. He's got sort of like a Disney-esque kind of feel to it. There's like a weight to his dimensions. And then these little floaty dudes, which are sort of like Rayman. I don't know. I like those. Sort of like the first page of the sketchbook. This was our idea for a project. I think I just wanted to do some kind of Rorschach test thing. Not the best page here, but just a scribbly portrait, and these were inspired by my stepdad and the depressing old men that would populate bars. Here's some interesting cartoons. I like that old man over there. Eye patches are good ways of fixing bad eyes. That's something I wrote at the top there. It's my sense of humor at the time. And then there's actually a similar comment at the bottom here. Can you swallow this arsenic, the ultimate antidepressant? So it's like eye patches are good ways of fixing bad eyes in the same way that antidepressants are good ways of fixing depression. That was like the idea that I was going for. Because you don't actually fix the depression, you just put a patch over it. Here's like a hot goth girl. I love drawing stuff like this. I would often get in trouble for it though, because, you know, it's sexual in nature, I guess. There's like a little floating lady. It's very similar to the type of thing that my sister would like to do. I think I must have been emulating her style here because she drew these types of floating naked ladies. I really, really like this stylized lady. That's the type of thing that I would like to do more of in like my animation work. Here's a crazy old homeless guy again. I loved drawing sort of gaunt, skinny people. Oh, there's a script here. Oh, there's a script that I did because I was the MC of the concert. So here's a script that I wrote. Let me just see if there's anything offensive at the back here. It's just some really odd. Oh, here's something interesting. I think I designed this for like a tattoo or a shirt design for somebody. And then I would make these things, which are faces that if you flip them upside down, it's still a face. So that's like a man with a beard and like a fez on his head. But then if you do it this way, it's a guy who's like got an expression. Oh, this one at the top here is also one of those. So it looks like a French waiter with, like a long nose, and then you flip it over, and it's like a Asian sort of slit-eyed guy who's like frowning. I used to do shitloads of these all over the place. I'm sure there'll be more coming up. Let me just see if there's anything else in here. There's a guy with a mop, sort of, what's his name? Mick Jagger. And then just a bunch of... That looks so much like my friend's sister who killed herself, Caroline. R.I.P. And then I quite like this funny guy over there. Anyway, let's move on to the next book because this one's tapped. Okay, now moving on to the next sketchbook, which was from when I was about 17 years old. They're all in quite bad condition because they were passed around so much at my school. Whenever there was a free moment, people would pass them around. So this cover is much more boring, I think, than the first one, but it's much cleaner. It's just stuff that I took out of a magazine. Here's a little emblem, Leyland, my second name. This was for like a competition. We had to design like an advert for exclusive books. For some reason, there's a wet cat symbol over there. Someone else must have drawn that. Here's a little indication that I actually am an artist, because not all of my artwork sort of shows that. But I remember at this point, I was like, I've got to prove to people that I can draw. So I just found some, photographs, some old photographs, and I just sketched them in here just to make it look all fancy. Because I think when people see my art, they tend to think that I can't do good art, but it's really just my taste. It's like, this is like a rip-off of what I think other people like. Like the stuff, because I was doing art before Instagram and stuff, and people on Instagram, they just make stuff that's beautiful, and it's not. For me, beautiful is not what art's all about. You're not just here to create something beautiful. Anyway, this is a guy with a dead wife. That's what I was going for. You can see there's some negative space there. And it's a big theme. So this was where I was going to put all of my... I should still actually put them in here, but it's just all the faces that flip over. And you can see this guy here is like a punk. This one you've seen already, and that one you've seen already. But there's one over there. And this here is mirror writing that see if I can get it centered. Here, mirror writing, and then if you flip it over, it still says mirror. And obviously I was inspired by Dan Brown, Angels and Demons, where he makes extensive use of ambigrams, as they're known. This one is a bit of a complex one, but you can kind of sort of see it's a guy with eyes and a mouth and a weird ponytail, and then you flip it over and it's a guy playing baseball. Much cleaner this way than the other way. But anyway, so this is planning for a giant badge that I did on the field. I might have mixed up the order of these sketchbooks, but anyway, I'll just put it in the right order. So I painted a giant badge on the field of Maritzburg College, and I was the first person in history to do this. And you can actually see the splatters of paint from when I was painting on the field. As it says here, paint splatters, genuine. So I painted it at 100 times this size on the field, as it says there, 100 to 1. And I used this grid to expand the image onto the field. And then immediately after doing this, my teacher gave us a project where we had to do the grid method to expand portraits. So she was basically basing her lessons on what I did. This is a sad one, because in this space here, there was a CD cover, and it was basically It was basically hands like this, but fused together. So it was one hand, a hand with two thumbs, and then it was carved into the back of the hand, Fingersmith, as like a name of the band. I don't know what happened to the image. I think someone must have stolen it, because these books were passed around so much, and I don't have any of the files, so that's just gone forever. Anyway, this is one when I was trying way too hard. I think I wrote stuff about it here because it's a huge issue in my life of trying to create something cool versus just creating something cool because you're bored. And this is a good example of me trying to create something cool and just creating crap, because everything on this page is crap. And I was trying hard. I was like, let me doodle something cool. And then I even commented on it. Like, I drew myself in the corner, like, what is this shit? What am I thinking of? Someone requested this. They wanted a Jack in the Box that looked insane. So just some proof that, I could have maybe been a tattoo artist or something. Some cool writing right there. Some nice fonts. I don't know if you can see that. Jack in the Box, scary. I cut out a bit of a magazine and I just put it in here if I didn't talk to a lazy couch. It was 2 lines that were split in a magazine, and I just thought it was funny that they wrote a coherent sentence. Okay. Mind Vomit. Here's a drawing that's supposed to represent a person choosing their belief system. There's Judaism, Nazism, a peace sign, a pentagram, a Christian cross, a Buddhist 8-spoked wheel, and then there's a ninja with a stick. So the choices of the deformed ninja man, it's called. He's not that deformed. I can see why I wrote that. I actually drew his face a little bit better than I thought I did. But the idea here is that he's got a blindfold on and a stick, and he's waving the stick around, and he's trying to hit something, and they're all just... So the idea is that choosing a religion is like a blind man with a stick, like just tossing it around in the dark, and then whatever it hits, that's what you believe in. That's like the idea behind that. This was an assignment. We had to cut out a piece of something from the magazine and then draw the other half. It was just a exercise in symmetry, I believe. I guess I should read some of this stuff. A wise man named Chris something once said that holy inspiration is everywhere. Every idea is placed there by God or the other guy. If Chris is as wise as he is cracked up to be, those dudes are some sick puppies. Chris, someone wrote Conversations with God. I have no idea what. It's probably a book that I borrowed from somebody. There were lots of Christians at my school. This is a guy called Mbeje. I've actually got a number of drawings of him because I thought he had an interesting kind of face. He was just a guy in my class. He had a sort of... I'm sure he wouldn't object to me saying this, but he had a kind of feminine face. I've drawn him a number of times. This was after I got my braces done. I did this. It's just a bunch of doctors staring into a guy's mouth. So this is lyrics from a song that I've actually sung at many open mics. It's Everlast, What It's Like. I've seen a rich man beg, I've seen a good man sin, I've seen a tough man cry, I've seen a loser win, and a sad man grin, I've heard an honest man lie. When I sing this song live, I usually do the seen a loser win, and a sad man grin, I've seen an honest man lie. I gotta warm up that voice, but I usually sing it like in that kind of voice. Seen the good side of bad and the downside of up and everything between. I licked the silver spoon, drank from the golden cup, and smoked the finest green. This was before I ever smoked weed. Now I smoke weed every day. that voice that I was trying to do there, I have to like practice it before I get into it. That wasn't a very good example. This was based on someone in my class, and I think this was meant to be an insult to him. I can't actually remember the guy's name, but it was just these guys. They were like Christians, and they were skaters, and I don't know. They just used to annoy me. I was like I was like what's the word? Like a nerd. Like I was always getting the top marks in class for everything. But I was also depressed all the time because my father was assassinated when I was 2. And then here's the prefect badge. So I painted a giant badge on the wall of the prefect study. And this was similar to the one on the field, except it was white, which was the prefect version of the badge. This was meant to be my art teacher. This is an ink sketch of my art teacher, and it was also supposed to sort of be insulting. I should mention this is inspired by Rolf Steadman. It's a bit of Rolf Steadman, and it's a bit of the guy who does the Roald Dahl illustrations. I forget his name. But Rolf Steadman was hugely inspiring to me with the paint splatters and the ink. It's actually like looking at this now, I think like, wow, I should really start doing stuff like this again because, yeah, I love this. I mean, I haven't seen this in a long time. Actually, I really, really love this piece. Yeah, anyway. That was Miss Hartley. So here is some planning for a project. The project was called Memories, and this centers largely around my father. There's a line from a Jack Johnson song there, like a shoebox of photographs, sepia tone 11, just because I decided to go sepia here. Everything's painted in sepia. Here's a very well-drawn little girl. I say well-drawn, not because I'm arrogant. I'm saying it because most of the stuff that I draw is bad. So when it's well-drawn, it's like interesting. Anyway, this is a bunch of stuff. It's planning for a project, but it's like, here's my family and here's an absence because my dad was assassinated. This is actually very good. It's been a long time since I've looked at these, but I actually really like this. Yeah. So this is some geometric art. I think this was inspired by MC Escher. You can see it's like a planet and there's stuff on the planet on the bottom and the top. Just playing with perspective, playing with paradox, because this cube is paradoxical. It's an impossible shape. And here's 2 men meet in a corridor. This is an original idea that's based on a very common theme in MC Escher's work, and it's just an impossible thing. See, this guy's standing on a table, this guy's standing on the hallway, they're shaking hands. This guy's way further in the foreground than the guy at the back who's in the background, yet they're shaking hands. It's just a play on 2-dimensionality in art. And then it's exactly the same thing as this cube, except it's done with people. And this is like a planning thing. You can see it says perspective for dummies there. That's quite funny. As you can see, I didn't really care much about it. I just did it as like, oh, here's an idea. This is one that I remember a lot because yeah, I don't know, something happened to me where I lost this spirit, but the spirit was like, let's make something completely original and unique. So this is just a giant room. It takes up 2 pages. It's a giant room, and then way, way, way in the corner here, you can see a tiny, tiny, tiny little artist, and he's drawing. There's a pyramid on the floor with a mirror, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a pyramid with a mirror, and then above the pyramid there's a window with an actual pyramid outside in the distance. And this was just because I was at boarding school and I'd been taken away from my life at home where I was creating stop motion animations on the computer. I was playing piano. I didn't have a piano at boarding school. I didn't have equipment to make stop motion animation. I didn't have anything. This is all I had, was my crappy sketchbook, my crappy little pens. And I wrote, "This is hell," over there, because that's how I felt. This is hell. You know? I hated this, and this is an expression of that. Because I felt like a guy in a giant empty room drawing a pyramid in the distance, a faraway pyramid, a fake pyramid, while outside in the real world that I can't access are the real things. And it's still how I feel today. It's still how I feel. Anyway. I remember this because it was an idea I put a lot of effort into it. I didn't go anywhere. It was just it's something that I wrote. A force greater than man, perhaps God, Buddha, Tom Cruise, whoever, is present in every song, every artwork, and everything that is said and done. As one writes, the impulse for every idea is stimulated, put there by this higher force, not guiding your hand, but gently coaxing it to start. It is the force that connects us all and ultimately controls us. Every person is an artwork created by the artist, and everything made by that person is a product of the original artist. The formula for writing, drawing, singing is embedded in the mind of each person, each artwork, some more than others, and that formula was created by the artist. Every star and galaxy is a pixel or a pen stroke of an undescribable painting that even we are a part of. Perhaps from a certain point in the universe you can see a beautiful moving masterpiece, or maybe a dirty four-letter word. Whatever the case, we are a part of it. No living man will ever understand it, but one day we will be able to sit and at a distance and finally see the beautiful work of the brush. I don't know who wrote that. I think I must have written it, but I don't like it that much. I think it's a little bit cringeworthy. It's creationism, and I am actually a creationist still, but back then I didn't have the... Maybe I did, but I don't feel like back then I had the insight that I have now. This was a project that a teacher asked me to do, painting her children, one holding the other. And as you can see, the baby was covered in blood. And I don't think I ever finished this painting, but here's some planning for it. See, I can actually draw, sort of. Here's a cartoon of some fish under the sea with a shark. It's not the most original thing, but over here there's a fly on the eye of a frog on a lump on the log in the hole in the bottom of the sea. It's a flea on the eye of the fly on the eye of the frog on the lump on the log in the hole in the bottom of the sea. Anyway, here is Stu Kelly, as a friend of mine that was at Maritzburg College, and this was me just drawing his face. Stu is an architect. My father was an architect, and I should have been an architect, but instead I wasted my life. But Stu is now an architect, and he travels the world, which is amazing. At the time, he didn't draw at all. He didn't seem to have any sort of artistic ability. I remember he really came into his own in technical drawing. He did some amazing technical, which is probably why he's an architect now. But here's an architectural construction of his face. Yeah, this was some weird planning for another project, and then all the rest of the pages are blank, sadly. There must be some stuff at the back, but let me just check. Oh yeah, so this is a story that went around the school because it was like a party that everybody was at, and it's actually kind of, I shouldn't actually talk about it, but I remember everybody thought this was very, very funny at the time. Some writing, and I think this is like some, what do you call it? Work that people ask me to do. What's the word? It's sort of like a contract, but it's a. Oh my god, I'll think of it. Anyway, yeah, someone asked me to do the bush pig, and there it is. There's a bunch of writing about God. The thing about writing or art is that most of the time when you look back on what you did, it's cringeworthy. It takes quite a lot to get past that. Anyway, that's book number 2. So now book number 3, coming up. The cover is a little bit more interesting than last year's cover, and it's cleaner than the first year's cover. So I would say overall this is probably the best one. It doesn't feature any artwork by me, but it's just a bunch of stuff that was cut out of a magazine, and it does sort of represent my random personality. And here's some digital art that I did, very sort of on the nose thing. This was, I think, inspired by Eminem's song, replaced with his own face. Our flag replaced with his own face, washed out and wiped or whatever. It's an Eminem song about America. And then here's Cyril Ramaphosa as a clown. I think I was just happy to show off my mediocre Photoshop skills at the time. You can see all of the work in this is already reined in, like part of my soul has been stolen. Here's part of the school that I was at. I think that's the chapel. Out of my window in Matric, I had the academic dorm at Maritzburg College, which was the biggest dorm that wasn't a prefect's dorm, and it was given to the person with the best academic grades, which was me. Monkey coming soon. No idea what that is. It's just a thing. This is actually a sketch of a sculpture that I made, and then I added the body on, but it's just a face. And I remember showing the sculptures to people. One of the teachers said, old characters are easy to make, and the young ones are the ones that are difficult. And then I wrote it in here, and I wrote Mrs. Cooperthwaite and the date. Because I just thought that was such a shit thing to say. I actually like Mrs. Cooperthwaite though. When I left, she was my science teacher, and when I left Matric, she wrote me a personalized note. And in it, she said, "You're a maverick and you'll have many jobs over the course of your life," which is true. I have had many jobs. None of them have stuck though. This is like a self-portrait of me when I felt like my acne was very bad. Mr. Skinny the Fish Head. This is one of those games where you fold up a piece of paper and you draw each bit individually. Damien was my friend from art class, the guy that sat next to me. I love Damien. Here's a self-portrait of me. Everybody used to say that this looked much younger than I actually did look, and I think I've always just had a young self-image. Self-portrait, blah, blah, blah. Here's some more self-portraits. Here's a very critical self-portrait of myself. Here's a self-portrait of myself, obviously. And then here is a colorful one. I just wanted to do primary colors. This doesn't look anything like any version of me. That doesn't look anything like me. And I think the likeness was lost because I was focused on colors. This is just a bad drawing in general. Here's a nice close-up of my eye. Not the best drawing. Here is very, very... Oh, I was just showing people what part of my face it was. Here's another colorful one. Somebody drew in tiny little pupils. That wasn't me. I think someone else drew that. Because these books were passed around a lot. We used to have what do you call it, prep at night for the boarders, which was like the time of evening where we had to work, and we would have these prefects supervise us, and the prefects would take my books and then they would pass them around to each other and show each other the drawings and stuff. I was trying to do something like epic here. You often see those epic like drawings where there's a whole lot of stuff going on, like there's people with little bows and arrows. It actually reminds me of the game that I'm making at the moment. There's a guy on the top of the hill there and there's a giant foot. It's just like little stickmen, little imaginary stickmen. Here's a little graphic novel example that I did. The night, a void that swallows our hopes, our dreams. Click, it eats your thoughts. Everything is hidden. Even time creeps up on you. Screech! Time waits for no man. It's like a car arrived. Extract from the Ballad of Reggie Wagon. Part 9. I actually quite like this frame at the top. Captain Compass. This is a insulting drawing of our technical drawing teacher who used to use all kinds of tricks to extract as much money out of the students as possible. You can see there's money stuffed into his underpants and there's money coming out. This was actually published, I don't know if it was published, but this was drawn for the school newspaper. And there were things like this. I remember we would make fun of the teachers. But this was a guy called Mr. Bosch. Terrible, terrible teacher, terrible racist. He was the teacher of the top set, which was the nerd class, the class with the highest marks. And I got the highest mark for technical drawing at the school. I got the prize for it. But I elected not to be in his class, and he held a grudge against me for that. But I remember when I was placed in his class for the penultimate year, because I only denied being in his class for the last year, but when I was in his class, he kicked out the only black guy from his class for taking notes on the first day. The kid was so diligent, he was taking notes on the first day and he got kicked out. A Yanda Zulu. Anyway. Dog. Sneaky dog. Very happy dog. Sad dog. How to know how your dog is feeling. This is the type of thing I could like publish as like a cartoon, you know. How to know how your dog is feeling. And then it's just a bunch of pictures of dogs with different facial expressions. Sneaky dog. That was definitely inspired by The Simpsons, I believe. Because there's a scene where Santa's little helper is sneaky and his eyes go like that. Here's a bear. There's a big bear under a tree. All this stuff seems so silly now that we have the internet and AI art and stuff. But anyway, here's another random page. I actually wrote here just to prove that I can still draw. I literally would draw stuff like this just to prove to people that I'm capable of drawing. Because a lot of the other stuff in the sketchbook doesn't necessarily show that. You know, it's just a bunch of ideas. But here's negative space and outer space. I should say that like my school wasn't an art school. It wasn't I was the best artist at my school, and this was the level of the art that was at my school. So it should tell you a lot. Because I remember seeing kids from like private schools and their art was way, way, way better. So just bear that in mind. This is a caricature of Skulk Burger. I should actually put this online somewhere. Yeah, I definitely should. Because that's a good caricature. Here's Tiger Woods. What I'm most happy about this drawing, apart from actually every part of this drawing is great. I love this drawing. This is a caricature of Tiger Woods, but look at the hand. I really nailed that hand. I don't think I've drawn a hand as good as that ever since, really. Seriously, like whatever I had at this time in my life, I've lost. No, I don't have this anymore. Whatever ability I had back then. This is quite a good drawing. This is funny to me because I was looking through a magazine and my friend Damien pointed at this image and he said that guy's cheating. I just thought that was so funny. So I drew it in here. It was just a guy, he was pointing at a target with his gun. And my friend says, hey, that guy's cheating. Anyway, this is a project of Clown Zuma. I don't know if this project ever came to fruition. Here's me attempting to caricature him and kind of failing. I forget that Jacob Zuma isn't our president anymore. It might as well still be though. There's no difference between Cyril Ramaphosa and Jacob Zuma. So here's a image that I cut out of the newspaper and then pasted this monster on top, and sometimes even blobs get lonely. I quite love this. I love this so much that I decided to make it into a graphic novel, which you can see here is the planning of the graphic novel. I'll just jump to the finished product though. So here you can see the planning, and then here you can see the finished product. So the finished product is one Sunday somewhere off the coast of New York City, and it shows a ship and it zooms in. Careful with those barrels, they're unsteady, crash, and then the barrel falls into the ocean. Just leave it. We don't have time to turn around. And then it bubbles and then this creature comes out of the deep. I was intentionally making it look like shit. Like I was intentionally making it look cartoony because it's a cartoon creature. And I think maybe that was lost. Anyway, here's the next page and you can see it looks all scared and there's New York City. Like you can see it's a cartoony, funny monster. Okay. So it comes into the city, it's poking around the corners, everyone's going crazy. Aha, it's a monster! Ah! Whoop, 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 whoop. Bogey located, over, terminate. So the military's come in to take out this monster. We got affirmative, vroom, bravo team sending reinforcements, over. And then the guy comes out, surround him, we got him now. So he's like distressed, the monster's all distressed, and then he's running out of the city. He's running into the ocean, running away, all sad. And then he gets to the Statue of Liberty, and he looks at it and he blushes shyly. And then he hits on the Statue of Liberty. There's quite a funny frame up here where he looks at the camera like smugly, like Daddy's gonna get some action, and then he hugs the Statue of Liberty, and then a little missile comes in behind him. Whoosh! Thud! Boom! And then he explodes. And there's an explosion because he exploded. And then the last page is some shaky panels indicating that the explosion is settling down, and then there's a zoom in on the Statue of Liberty's face, and the Statue of Liberty is crying. Art, ladies and gentlemen. Trappuccino. I think this was inspired by the Simpsons movie. It's just a city in a dome on top of a coffee cup written Trappuccino. Just inspiring. Okay, here's an executioner and he's executing a bottle, and there's a whole bunch of bottles in line and they're sobbing. Here is Slutbot 3000 with a bunch of robots going beep, 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 boop around Slutbot. Here is, I actually thought I drew this more recently, but it's a ship and there's a there's a polar bear waving, and they're like, wow, look, a polar bear, and then the polar bear's stealing food out of the ship. I was trying to be clever. Okay, let's see. So this is supposed to be God, and then it says he's got the whole world. And the reason I drew this is because, you know, there's that song, he's got the whole world in his hands. And in that song, you tend to picture of him holding the world like this. But I was thinking, like, well, isn't the world tiny compared to God, so wouldn't he be holding it like this? Rather, like, that's how God holds the world, not in his hands. Like, anyway, and here's a bunch of hands. I'm quite happy with some of these. I quite like the way my thumb is sort of distended there. That one's pretty good, that one's not great. Yeah, anyway, some hands. Here's a drawing of me in my 30s. Give me drugs, man. I need this, man. A hit. I don't ask for much, man. Just one hit. I'll pay you. I pay you, man. Oh, come on, man. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's me now. That's me modern day. Hier sto pans pen de sosie, elho rindha mles smurt hand funnel, et free ends hypri bedges tand kindem devil's peak of none. This is a riddle and I won't give away the answer, but this is a family thing. Oh, I remember I mentioned Mbeje in the last book. Here's him again. This was planning for a lino cut that I did. You can see that lino cut on my website. I'll put up an image maybe on the video. And here's some mouths, a bunch of mouths. I think I was just inspired by more professional artists' sketchbooks where they actually practice things like this, you know. I think definitely the guy who did the Terry Pratchett illustrations, he has a lot of stuff like that. Also Rolf Stedman, actually. This was the badge or the design for our hoodie. Everybody was allowed to buy a hoodie that was designed by me and the matrics, who were like the seniors at the school. Yeah, I did about 4 hoodie designs. I got paid next to nothing for them. But around the world, there's people who have my designs on their shirts somewhere. I've done countless designs. I've done like hundreds. I've done literally hundreds of shirt designs for people and got paid next to nothing for them. That's a pretty interesting thing. Next. Yeah, it was Ed Hardy inspired Maritzburg College badges. So this, I was doing art in technical drawing class, which was normal for me, but we had a substitute teacher at the time and she didn't like that. So she was like, put your sketchbook away and do some technical drawing. So I took out my technical drawing set and I drew this drawing of her, and then I went and showed it to her as a way to go, fuck you, lady, there is no difference between technical drawing and art. So this is a hot girl from a Swimsuit Illustrated that I decided to sketch. I think this is, I don't know, Gabrielle Davis, okay. It's just like a primary color pencil crayon drawing. And I think that's it. That's the last thing. And then at the back, there's usually some stuff too. Some weird face practice. Yeah, anyway, that's it. And that concludes this video where I look at 3 sketchbooks from high school. And I hope you enjoyed that. And if you did, subscribe, give me a like, hit that notification bell, and I'll be seeing you next time.